irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Ó wá wòye.
Yes, ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa mú kí wa nílé lóko níbikíbi tí a bá wà. Ó ti ṣẹlẹ̀. Labeeb Lagbaji. Labeeb Lagbaji. Ibi tó bá fẹ́ sá lọ lókù pẹ̀lú ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń sọ lẹ́nu. Ẹ̀yin àfáwọn yìí àti sọ, ẹ máa ṣì sọ ni. Ẹ̀yin ènìyàn wa, ẹ farabalẹ̀, ẹ wo full video yìí. Díẹ̀ lẹ gbọ́ níbẹ̀rẹ̀ yẹn. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé kò tà mọ́. Ẹ wá kéwú, òun náà ń pariwo ní ìwé ò tà mọ́. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́, tẹ́yàn bá kéwú kí ni wọ́n fẹ́ fi kéwú ṣe? Àwọn ìbéèrè tá a ní fún yín rẹ̀ ẹ̀yin àfá ẹ bọ́ síta kẹ́ wá ṣàlàyé fún wa. Tẹ́yàn bá kéwú, kí ni wọ́n fẹ́ fi kéwú ṣe? Kò ju pé kẹ́ máa fi kéwú tọrọ jẹ, kẹ́ máa wá bí tán ti fẹ́ ṣe bẹ́ríà, kẹ́ máa wá bí tán ti fẹ́ ṣe wòlí àwọn kìíní ìkómọ. Ẹ kó ọmọ sílé kéwú, ẹ ní wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe wòlímọ̀. Àwọn ọmọ tó yẹ kó lọ kàwé, ẹ wá gbọ́ nǹkan tó ń sọ jáde lẹ́nu. Kí ni àríkọ́ṣe kan táwọn ọmọ fẹ́ kọ́ lára ẹ̀? Ẹ jẹ́ ká gbọ́.
Where a trending TikTok video of Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmad Labeeb Lagbaji is drawing a lot of reactions online after he delivered a message through a song with lyrics stating that Western education no longer pays, instead urging people to turn to Quranic learning. Now, the clip has drawn a lot of debate. Let's watch a snippet to see why.
Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú. Irọ́ ni wọ́n pa ìwé òòtà mọ́ aráyé ẹ̀ wá kéwú.
Now, this video has triggered mixed reactions. Some, welcoming the message. Others are questioning its relevance, and others have pointed out the fact that he's promoting this kind of content on digital platforms powered by modern education and technology. How do you reconcile all of these different factors?
The irony of that. And the truth is that the number of people, clerics who had this message, passed their message using technology that people who went to school developed. But this is a bigger issue, because we've often talked about, and part of President Olusegun Obasanjo's criticism of this administration is their handling of education and out-of-school children, saying that we have a potential time bomb on our hands. We have over 20 million out-of-school children in Nigeria, many of them in the northern part of Nigeria, and this makes up the largest number of out-of-school children in the world. What the president had said, the former president had said, was that this is a potential pool for future recruits into extremism and, insurgency in the future if Nigeria doesn't manage this problem. Now, put that side by side, this kind of rhetoric by a man who I gather has a large following on social media, and he's telling his followers that education doesn't work. We've often said that one of the problems of the north and areas that are underdeveloped in Nigeria is a lack of infrastructure, including education, quality education in those areas. And that is why it is easy for many to be indoctrinated or to be radicalized and, enticed into a life of extremism. So the government needs to take a position now, because this this is one of many people who've come out with this and come out very boldly with this kind of rhetoric, is that we need to take a policy and a stance on education and almost make it criminal for people like this to make statements like this and, target education. People can have ideas. It's individual. People can believe that I don't want to go to school. But if Nigeria is a nation that believes in the importance of education and in the education of every child, for instance, Lagos State has a policy where they are trying to drive and push more out of school children into schools. They've received funding and are working towards. So it's anti-government to actually take a position like this when you're trying to raise money, you're trying to put in policies to ensure that children are educated, and then you come up with things like this and say, oh, don't educate your children.
Absolutely.
If you're going to arrest parents for not sending their children to school, as it's done in some states like Lagos State, then there should be some form of punitive measure for people like this who come out boldly to go against the efforts of government, and maybe education as well, because some of them genuinely, based on religious beliefs, align with this. So maybe we need more education and awareness, advocacy on the importance of education. But I don't think people like this who have a voice, who are influencers, who have a large following should get away with making statements like this.
Absolutely.
It doesn't do well, and it is anti-government, because this government's policy is to get more people into education, especially out of school children.
Especially with social media, given...
The UBEC Act, 2004, Universal Basic Education, Compulsory Education Act, which makes education free and fair, says that if you don't send your child to school, you will be penalized, including not just fine, but also imprisonment. But who is enforcing that? That's one question. The second thing is that, Boko Haram. The meaning of Boko Haram is that Western education is a sin. And that's precisely what this man is saying.
Right.
Now that singing, the song, is in Yoruba. And that's unfortunate, suggesting that perhaps this is in the western part of Nigeria. The same western part of Nigeria that introduced universal free primary education and free education, in 1955. It was Awolowo's policy, and I think, anyway, Western region, 1955. It was copied by the East in 1957 and by Northern Nigeria in 1959. This is 2026. You see how some human beings saying that Western education is not acceptable.
Right.
Now, the gentleman, Sheikh Lagbaji, is speaking out of ignorance, complete ignorance. Because the pattern in the western part of Nigeria is that you can send your child to the regular school, Western education. And some parents will say, I also want my child to be educated in the Quranic way.
Right.
Learning the Quran is also knowledge. It's also education. It's just that it is Islam-based. So, it's a lot of ignorance being put out there. And I think that Sheikh Lagbaji, or whatever his name is probably looking to promote his own business, trying to encourage people to come to his Quranic school.
Right.
And that is the kind of, a problem that we have in this environment. And if you check, his own children are probably going to school, private schools,
abroad.
either abroad or elsewhere.
Unfortunate.
So it's for people to just beware. The caveat emptor is buyer beware.
Absolutely.
Don't listen to what pastor says, hook, line, and sinker, and also be careful with some of these. Owners of Quranic schools, what they say. You can combine both. There's nothing wrong in that, because there's no limit to knowledge.
The Ahmadiyya school system encourages that,
Exactly.
but to say no education is wrong.
And it doesn't have to be either or.
Kí wọ́n tún gbọ́ ní ráìsì tẹlifíṣàn. Àwa ò gbé ẹ má kàwé ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́ tí gbọ́. Ẹ jẹ́ kí wọ́n tún gbọ́ ní ráìsì tẹlifíṣàn. Àwa ò gbé ẹ má kàwé ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́ tí gbọ́. Ẹ jókòó kẹ́ tún sọ ní ráìsì tẹlifíṣàn. Àwa ò gbé ẹ má kàwé ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́ tí gbọ́. Ẹ jókòó kẹ́ tún sọ ní ráìsì tẹlifíṣàn. Àwa ò gbé ẹ má kàwé ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́ tí gbọ́. Ẹ jókòó kẹ́ tún sọ ní ráìsì tẹlifíṣàn. Àwa ò gbé ẹ má kàwé ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́ tí gbọ́. Alábòsí jàǹbá tẹ́rù ṣe ló pọ̀. Àwa ò gbé ẹ má kàwé ẹ̀ẹ́dẹ́ tí gbọ́. Ẹ jókòó kẹ́ tún sọ ní ráìsì tẹlifíṣàn. Àwa ò gbé ẹ má rice náà máa ń jẹ àbí aláìsí ni mi ò kí rice náà máa ń jẹ ni bàbá kẹta ń jẹ ni a ní di rice o apọ̀ ń bí o.
ọ̀rọ̀ Labeeb Lagbaji òun náà ti gbé wá sórí national television yẹn ọ̀rọ̀ Labeeb Lagbaji òun náà ti gbé wá sórí national television òun náà ti ń jíròrò lé lórí gbogbo ayé ti gbọ́ àṣírí yín ò ní bò lẹ́yìn pípò iṣẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ni mo sọ àṣírí yín ò ní bò ọ̀rọ̀ náà ti gbé wá ọ̀nà tí ń dìbéètì lé lórí o ẹjọ́ sí ọ̀rọ̀ lélẹ̀ ní gbogbo àwọn western world kí ló gbé ìlú dìde kí ló gbé ìlú lọ kí ló ń gbé àwọn ìlú kí ló mú ìlú ń dàgbàsókè kí ló ń gbé ìlú ń dàgbàsókè bí kò ṣe pé education without education nǹkan ò lè lọ déédéé nínú ìlú ẹ̀yẹn wá ń sọ pé ṣé ẹ̀sìn ló fẹ́ tùlú ṣe ni ṣé ẹ̀sìn òun ló fẹ́ tùlú ṣe ni ẹ̀sìn ló fẹ́ mú ló fẹ́ gbé technology without education ṣé wọ́n lè ṣe technology ẹ̀rí nǹkan táwọn China ń ṣe pẹ̀lú àwọn ọmọ wọn ẹ wo bí àwọn China bó ṣe ń tọ́ àwọn ọmọ wọn ẹ wo bá àwọn ọmọ China ṣe ń kàwé ẹ wo bá àwọn ọmọ China ṣe ń ṣiṣẹ́ ọwọ́ ṣé ẹ̀sìn náà fi ń ṣe gbogbo nǹkan tó ń ṣe àwọn ló ń gbá front àwọn pẹ̀lú àwọn India àwọn ló ń gbá front ní gbogbo àgbáyé in anything àwọn ló ń lọ sí number one ṣùgbọ́n èyàn fẹ́ gbé ẹ̀sìn àṣì number one kò lè possible ẹ̀sìn lè fẹ́ ẹ̀sìn lè fi tún kọ̀ọ̀kan ṣe nínú ìlú lè fẹ́ ẹ̀sìn fi tún kọ̀ọ̀kan ṣe nínú ìlú bí kò ṣe kókó máa bà nǹkan jẹ́ ẹgbọ́rọ̀ tó ń sọ lẹ́nu pé káwọn ọmọ wa ké o pé ìwé ò tà mọ́ who tell you that education is number one in anything ó máa yọ sílẹ̀ tó bá education in some area education is number one so ẹ wá encourage àwọn ọmọ ń sìn káwọn ọmọ máa kàwé káwọn ọmọ wa máa kéwú nǹkan tí Labeeb Lagbaji sọ rèé o pé káwọn ọmọ máa kàwé mọ́ káwọn ọmọ wa máa kéwú nǹkan tó ń wá nìyẹn wọ́n fẹ́ kẹ́ máa kọ́ ọmọ wọn wá kẹ́ máa kọ́ ọmọ yín wá sọ́dọ̀ wọn kọ́ lè máa gbowó lọ́wọ́ yín nǹkan tí àwọn ń fẹ́ ohun gangan nìyẹn ẹ jẹ́ ká yára wa lọ́pọlọ ṣùgbọ́n lélẹ́yìí o ìgbà tó jẹ́ pé irú òborùn náà ni wọ́n tó bá jẹ́ pé ìlú gidi ni ó yẹ kán lọ arrest ẹ̀ ni àwọn tó ń darí ìlú Nàìjíríà ṣe bí ẹ̀sìn náà ni wọ́n fi ń ṣe gbogbo tá à ń rí kí ló mú àwọn Boko Haram ń pa àwọn èèyàn kiri ẹ̀sìn òun náà ni nítorí ọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀sìn náà ni President of Nigeria is a Muslim Vice President of Nigeria is a Muslim if not so ó yẹ kán gbé ìgbésẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n lílé náà tó wà lẹ́yìn náà ìgbésẹ̀ tó bá fẹ́ gbé ìgbà tó jẹ́ pé most of the thing in Nigeria they will sweep it under the carpet they will sweep everything under the carpet if not so ṣé ó yẹ kí Labeeb Lagbaji ṣé ó yẹ kó lọ score free pẹ̀lú gbogbo àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ tó sọ lẹ́nu pẹ̀lú gbogbo àwọn rubbish tó ń vomit lẹ́nu ṣé ó yẹ kó lọ score free ẹ jẹ́ ká wo tí gbogbo àjá sí òun rèé o ẹ bá wa pín ètò yìí kò ní jù báyìí lọ.